from the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust here at the tip of Manhattan Battery Park. I'm Mark Golub. Welcome to a special JBS presentation honoring the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation, which itself is honoring Dr. Ruth Westheimer. We want you to see all the festivities, but first we want to begin with speaking to some of the wonderful people who are here. What a pleasure I have now standing with David Marwell. You're the president of the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation.
I am, and I'm the director emeritus of the Museum of Jewish Heritage.
You're doing so much. By the way, the Auschwitz Center is here because of you.
Yeah, we, 10 years ago, in 2006, we organized the combination of the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation and the museum to celebrate Jewish life, to talk about this wonderful Jewish community that existed in the town of Oświęcim before the Nazis called it Auschwitz, and to give a power and animation to the life that was there.
There is a major Holocaust museum in Washington, D.C. It's the National Holocaust Museum, and Jews all over the country come, Jews all over the world come there. Here we have Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust. What's your sense of the importance of not only having a national center, a national museum, but of museums like this one and the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation? What is the larger goal to which you have dedicated so much of your own time and energy and talent?
Well, you know, the museum in Washington, where I worked as an associate director for 3 years, is a remarkable history museum. It happens to be in Washington. We are in New York, which is the city of the largest population of Jews outside of Israel, the largest population of survivors. Yes. We serve the New York City school system and all of the other educational facilities in New York. To not have a Holocaust memorial and education center in New York City would be ridiculous, frankly.
This is one of the real good guys in the Jewish world. He has been a wonderful friend to me, to JBS. I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha on all the work you do now, and it's an honor to stand with you, and I hope every now and then I'll have a chance to have you on camera. Thank you, David.
Love that very much. Thank you. Thanks very much.
What an honor I have now sitting next to Sigmund Rolat. You've seen him a number of times on JBS, and he has done so much, not only for the Jewish world in general, but specifically to help us always remember the Holocaust, a commitment to the Jewish community of Poland. He's responsible for the Jewish Museum in Krakow. And here you are tonight at the Auschwitz Center, Jewish Center Foundation, honoring Dr. Ruth. Before I ask you about Dr. Ruth, what's this foundation and what's the idea of always keeping the Jewish community of Auschwitz, not the concentration camp? This is about celebrating the Jews who once were a vibrant part of Jewish life in the Auschwitz community. What's it mean to you, Sigmund?
Well, the Jews comprise 1/3 of the population, and there is a very interesting small museum which I invite everybody who comes to Poland to visit. However, for me, these cadets and this trip of theirs to Poland is particularly important and especially gratifying, because up to now they were arriving in Auschwitz after a day or two in Krakow, and this time, for the first time, they are going to arrive in Poland at what I call the new portal, and that is our museum. And I think that is very important, because they'll spend a day visiting our museum and finding out actually about that Jewish community, the biggest Jewish community in the world, until about 100 years ago, when the Jewish community in the United States took over. And that is very, very important, because they will see now Auschwitz really grounded in much more overall history.
Yes.
I mean, let's remember, more Jews lived in Poland since the destruction of our temple than anywhere else in the world. for over 1,000 years. They'll find it out, and then, of course, they'll travel to Oświęcim, Auschwitz, and they will be greeted by Arbeit macht frei.
So much of what you have done has been to educate us, to inform us. It is wonderful to see you again, to be with you again. I wish you kol tuv
I
v'hatzlacha.
only invite everyone who listens to come to Częstochowa, my native city, where the Philharmonic is the Huberman Philharmonic,
Fabulous.
where we have now the fifth meeting of the Częstochowa, of the descendants of Częstochowa Jews, and it will be something very, very special. Also, it's the Biennale of Huberman, so will be a lot of good music and 4 wonderful days.
By the way, does it mean anything to you that we are honoring Dr. Ruth tonight?
Well, everyone knows Dr. Ruth. I hope some people learned from her a bit when they listened to her.
Again, it is wonderful to be with you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And you
I
look
am
what-
really, really delighted to see you.
Thank you. Sigmund Rolat. Simon, you're not
Yes.
always fun?
I try to be.
Okay, good for you.
You have to laugh.
Isn't that true?
The das machen Gelächter. You know, my distant cousin was Henri Bergson, Henry Bergson.
Wow.
Famous philosopher.
Of course.
Won the Nobel Prize. What did he
Yes.
write about? Laughter. So, how could we not laugh? Life is all about laughter.
All right, talk to me for one moment
Yes.
about the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. You have a very important role there. You are?
I am the chairman of the Auschwitz Jewish Foundation, the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation.
Yes. Okay. In your mind,
Mhm.
what's the unique contribution you're trying to make through this foundation? Why is it important that this exists here at the Jewish Museum of Jewish Heritage? And in general, we're here tonight honoring Ruth Westheimer,
Yes.
but we're really here also for the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation.
yes.
Simon, explain to our audience, why is it so important?
Well, it's the programs that we have. First off, Auschwitz is known as a death camp.
Yes.
The reality is that today it is not a death camp. It is a city. It's a vibrant city with a synagogue, the Auschwitz Jewish Center Synagogue. It's the only synagogue that remains of 32 synagogues that existed pre-war. It is now a museum, a study center, and a synagogue. And the program that we're sponsoring tonight is the ASAP program, American Service Academies program. These are the future military leaders of our armed forces. So, what better person to teach about the atrocities from World War II, how to deal with people and people of different cultures in wartime? That's the whole concept.
You know, by the way, I'm not telling you something you don't know, but I'm sure our audience knows, there was a vibrant Jewish community before the Auschwitz death camp.
That's correct.
One of the things this Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation does is make all of us aware, you know, life didn't begin for Jews with a concentration camp.
That's correct.
There was a vibrant, active, thoughtful, sensitive, brilliant Jewish community there, which was the victim of the darkest night of human history.
Yes.
So I want to say to you, one of the things I think you're doing that's so spectacular is you are giving us a chance, we American Jews, and Americans in general, a chance to understand that there is a wider message. It's really a message of life, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And, you know, just respond to that. Does this make sense to you?
Well, yes. My parents were both survivors of Auschwitz. They met in Auschwitz.
Where were they from?
From Czechanov, Poland. So to me, Auschwitz was always the horror stories and the death camp. The reality is, after the people survived, there are stories of survival. I'll speak a little bit about that later this evening. But every survivor has a story, and Auschwitz today is just a memory. It should not be a memory of death. The city of Oświęcim, because it's Oświęcim in Poland, Oświęcim in Yiddish, the city of Oświęcim was 1/3 Jewish before the war. Today, there are no Jews. But our mark is there, and our history is there.
What a marvelous service you do to the Jewish community.
Thank you.
You're fascinating. One day you have to come in and let me talk to you in studio, Simon.
Okay.
Kol tuv
Thank you.
hatzlacha, mazal tov to you.
Thank you.
Simon Bergson. What a pleasure I have now. I'm standing with 3 of the cadets who are part of this evening's festivities, and you are all going through Auschwitz, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's interesting, you represent 3 branches of the service, and you come from different parts of the country. How do you end up part of this program, and what do you hope it does for you?
So my major is international history, and my studies actually focus on areas of the world that have had mass atrocities, genocides, ethnic cleansings, and things of that nature. So I'm hoping to learn what the social atmospherics were during the Holocaust and apply that to current situations in order to prevent anything from like this from happening again.
Beautifully said. Same question. You know, what brings you to this program? What are you hoping it does for you?
Yes, sir. I'm a pre-med major, actually, so I'm looking to learn about the medical ethics of this program and then the behavioral advancements that went on, just to learn about it and hopefully become a better officer because of it.
Beautifully said. Same thing. What do you hope this does for you?
I'm hoping to learn from this program just how we can prevent not just another Holocaust, but also other things that go along with the crowd, and how I can be a better officer by influencing the men and women underneath me to go against the status quo.
We say Mazal Tov in Hebrew. Mazal Tov. Mazal Tov you. Kol Tuv v'Hatzlacha means all goodness and success to you. Thank you for giving us a moment of time on JBS. I appreciate it very, very much. Marvelous young people here. What a privilege I have standing with Eric Schneiderman, who is the Attorney General, State of New York.
Yes.
Okay. What brings you here, Eric?
Well, I'm a big fan of the museum. I've done work with them over the years, and supporter of the Auschwitz Jewish Center, and this is just a wonderful program they run with our young men and women from the military. So I'm here in support of my friends and their good work.
That is fabulous. So you're Jewish?
Yes.
Okay.
Schneiderman? Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up in your household, was there a sense of what the importance of the Shoah, the Holocaust, was to you? Do you have any siblings?
You know, interestingly enough, my father was of the greatest generation. He was actually in the Navy in World War II. And that generation, they really didn't like to talk about it a lot. They really downplayed it to a certain extent, and I really learned much more about it as I grew older. But we forget at our peril, and it's very important to have programs like this to keep the memories alive. And you look at what's happening in some parts of the world, and if we're not mindful of history, history can repeat itself. So it's just a pleasure to be here with people who are making sure that a new generation of folks, particularly in our armed services, understand what happened and what can happen. It's a very inspiring program.
That was beautifully said. It's an honor to stand with you. I hope we have other chances on JBS.
Thank you.
Eric Schneiderman. So lucky me, I'm standing with Jake Ehrenreich, you know, a brilliant performer and the master of ceremonies tonight. You know, in addition to the fact that they called you, it isn't simply a job for you tonight. It means much more. What's it mean for you, Jake, to be part of an evening, not only honoring Dr. Ruth, but there's this program with cadets, and it's the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. By the way, your parents were?
So my parents were survivors from Poland.
Yes.
They lived in Poland. They were not in Auschwitz, as opposed to my friend Simon, who's the chairman. His parents were in Auschwitz, and our mutual friend Avi Hoffman.
Yes.
My parents were lucky. They survived in Siberia, but the rest of my family perished in many different ways, including Auschwitz.
Yes. All right. So what's it mean to you tonight? What do you hope to come out? What do you hope comes out of tonight?
So I'm hoping, first of all, that we spread the word a bit about the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. It's a very, very important organization. It does excellent work. It educates young people, and that's the problem we have. Older people sort of know, people my age sort of, but young people just miss the whole thing. They think it's some kind of myth. So the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation educates. It also educates non-Jews. It educates local Polish teachers and law enforcement about what happened, how we move forward. That's a very difficult item. I don't know the answer to it, but I know organizations like this are very important in the answer.
It's so important what you've just said. You know, you speak to young people. The Holocaust was somewhere around the Revolutionary War, and they have no sense of its importance in Jewish history and Jewish life. More than that, they don't understand how much of Jewish life not only was, but continues to be shaped by the experience of the Holocaust. When you talk to, again, that generation, it's not about what pains you, but what do you hope you could share that would enlighten, if there was one piece of a spark of information, of knowledge, of feeling you could communicate, what would it be, Jake?
The thing I would most like to communicate is understanding about the Holocaust puts the modern state of Israel into a certain context that people are not really understanding. Without understanding where it comes from, what our history is, our recent history, I don't think there's a clear understanding of the miracle of the state of Israel. And I'm not saying that the Holocaust created the state of Israel, but the fact that it exists such a short period after the time where we were on the verge of annihilation is nothing short of a biblical miracle. And so, I know a lot about the Holocaust. I don't live there, so I don't make it my life, but it informs my life. It informs everything that I think. And I think I would like people to understand it more in that way. Not define them, but inform their knowledge about Jewish life.
Jay, of course, is the creator and performer of A Jew Grows in Brooklyn, and that's an autobiographical piece.
It is.
And one of the things you do is you're very honest about describing what it was to be the second generation. When you put this show together, and you're doing a piece of it tonight, again, is there some driving force? And part of, it's a funny show, but it's also a very moving show. And you're fabulous. I think you're fabulous. And A Jew Grows in Brooklyn is a spectacular piece, not only of theater, but of Jewish history. So I'm putting you on the spot. A Jew Grows in Brooklyn, in terms of the aspect of being a second generation, what are you trying to communicate there?
I wanted to say, these were the circumstances of my life. All of us, regardless of the circumstances of your life, have the obligation and the ability to define what your life is going to be about. I told a true story, and I want to tell the true story, but what I really want people to know is you are in charge of defining how the circumstances of your life define how you live. And that extends past being a child of survivors, past being Jewish. It's life. But I tell it honestly through what happened to me. That's what I know.
But it really is a universal story, isn't it?
That's what I wanted it to be.
This man is out of this world. I wish you and Lisa all the best. I will see you later on stage and afterward. Jake Ehrenreich, again, the Master of Ceremonies here tonight. Thank you, my friend.
I met Dr. Ruth about 20 years ago, a little more perhaps, at a dinner table. And at the end of the dinner, she came up to me and she said, "You're the only person here I don't know. Come into the corner and tell me about yourself."
That is who she is, isn't it?
That is who she is. So I gave her really very vague information. I didn't think she meant it. And I learned that when she asks a question, she means it. She listens attentively, and she never forgets what you say.
She is a very unusual, self-made. Does not sit home alone at night, out every day. Uses up all of her energy. Loves Jewish causes.
So I'm standing now with Rose Shriver, and you are from where in Florida?
Bal Harbor, Florida.
Bal Harbor, Florida. And you watch JBS there?
Absolutely, all the time, all the time.
You have flown up specifically to be here to honor Dr. Ruth.
Right.
Why, Rose?
She has been, we met 25 years ago. We couldn't go dancing. She got us into a place called Doubles, the most waspy place you could imagine. Then I invited her Friday night for dinner. She came and she said, "What is that picture?" It was a picture of the Rebbe there, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So she says, "I want to go see the Rebbe." I figured the next day she'll forget about it. She didn't. She insisted on taking me taking her to the Rebbe, and she got $1. I know exactly how old her grandson is because the Rebbe gave her $1 for her daughter and her grandson to think. And over the years, she's been a wonderful friend. And she never forgets her old friends. She just, so I'm very happy to be here. She deserves it.
This is wonderful. You know, most people only know her through her public persona. You know her and you know her soul as a friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so just tell me one thing about who she is that the audience might not know, but because she's been a friend of yours, Rose Schreiber knows.
She will go out of her way for her friends, even if it's dark. I had to have an appointment with Club Med's president for business. I couldn't get an appointment. She went up there. He treated her terribly. He didn't know who she was until he saw all the office workers come out. So I got the appointment. I mean, it didn't help me afterwards, but she humiliated herself because, you know, the French, it can be very nasty. And she went out of her way. She also used to come to us for kaparas, not us, my sister, in Crown Heights.
Really?
For years. She would come and schluck kaparas. Can you imagine her with the chickens like this? So she did for years. She came with us. She has a soul that is amazing.
I have a chance to stand next to Rebecca
Garfine,
who is the cantor at Rodef Sholem here in New York, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you know Ruth?
We're cousins.
How? How was that? How?
Because her beloved husband Fred and my father were second cousins.
Lovely.
Yes, and I've known her since I'm like 17 years old, most of my life.
Okay, you know, most of us don't get to see her behind the camera. Okay. Is she this much of a pistol?
She is awesome.
You're awesome.
She's,
okay.
She's a shining light. I mean, what you see is everything.
He wants to be on a picture with me because I'm being honored. I'm going to be 88 years old on Saturday. And look at the amount of people here.
Isn't it wonderful?
And look at my granddaughter, Leora, her friend, Ilan. My grandson is here. My son is here. My daughter is in Australia. But don't leave me without my CEO.
Okay.
And I love the Jewish broadcasting system.
Oh, okay. One question. Look, it's lovely that you're being honored, but you're being honored by the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. You are a survivor. You're not a second generation, you're first generation.
Right.
What's this mean to you?
First of all, better listen to my speech.
Okay.
It will say it, and then
Okay.
I'll tell it to you again.
Okay.
However, I am not a survivor. I'm an orphan of the Holocaust.
Yes.
Survivor are those people who were, in the camps. I am somebody who is an orphan of the Holocaust, and that's why I have an obligation to do something for Tikkun Olam, to repair the world, because 1.5 million Jewish children were killed, and I'm alive, and I have grandchildren, and I'm having this whole crowd, and you. The Jewish broadcasting system
is
right
fabulous.
here.
You bet.
And all my friends are here. And you can talk to my grandchildren.
I will.
And you listen carefully to my speech.
I will.
And you should film my speech.
I will.
All right.
Okay, Mazal Tov.
Thank you.
Those are some of the wonderful people here at this celebration of the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation at the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust. We now want to take you to the actual program. We hope you enjoy it here on JBS.
Welcome. I am so excited to welcome you all to this fabulous and exciting evening where the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation honors the one, the only, the irrepressible Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Dr. Ruth, stand up. Mazel tov, sweetheart. Tonight, of course, we're here to speak about the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. And being a child of survivors, I know how important the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation is, the work they do and the mission that they have. Now, to help explain a little more to you out there and to our television audience tonight, I'd like to invite to the stage a fellow child of Holocaust survivors, a raconteur extraordinaire, the chairman of the board of the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation, my good friend, Mr. Simon Bergson.
Good evening. As Jake just told you, my name is Simon Bergson, and I am the chairman of the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation, and I also am a child of Holocaust survivors. When we come together every year for this event, we, of course, remember the unforgettable travesties of our past. We remember horrors that my family and many of your families had suffered during the Holocaust. And we remember the many family members that were killed, the ones we never knew. But also, we must remember and honor those that persevered and survived. They all have stories of survival. Some are of strength, and some are stories of just being in the right place at the right time. But that's what makes them survivors. So with that, I'd like to ask the survivors in the auditorium today, please stand up and be recognized. Please remain standing. I'd like to ask the children of survivors to please stand up. And now I'd like to ask the grandchildren of survivors to please stand up. We should also acknowledge the fact that we are here together in New York City in this beautiful space. We can celebrate the fact that we not only survived, but we now thrive. We can give thanks for being here together in such fashion and appreciate how far we've come in spite of the darkness that our past generations experienced. I find this truly remarkable, and I am blessed to be able to carry on the legacy of my parents. Milton and Nadja Bergson of Czech of Poland, both survivors of Auschwitz. The Auschwitz Jewish Center in Oświęcim, Poland is a very special place. It is an original synagogue, the only one of 32 that survived the war. The center today serves as a synagogue, museum, and study center in the heart of the city of Oświęcim, or as the Jewish population before the war called it, Oświęcim, or as the world knows it, Auschwitz. In order to educate and to effect any change in both the present and future, we must first learn from the past. The Auschwitz Jewish Center seeks to educate, and we offer many programs, thanks to your support. Some of the programs consist of teaching Polish high school teachers and students about Jewish life and anti-Semitism. In the last 2 years, we have trained over 200 Polish and German police officers about the Holocaust and how to combat hate crime. We offer a 3-day weekend opportunity for students already studying abroad to learn about pre-war Jewish life and an opportunity to experience Auschwitz. Since the year 2000, we've taught future scholars through a fellows program about Polish and Jewish history in an intensive 3-week program. And of course, we have the American Service Academies program, which we've run since 2004. These future military leaders join us to learn from the past so they can lead into the future. We can't undo the past, but we can together be sure to build a future filled with more gratitude, compassion, and understanding, and preach the need for tolerance and acceptance of others. This is the mission of the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. The event this evening enables us to continue with these many educational programs, and that is why we are here tonight. I'd like to now ask the chairman of the Museum of Jewish Heritage to come up and say a few words. Please welcome Bruce Ratner.
First, let me make a remark. Thank you all for coming this evening. What a wonderful group of people we have. This is always very special. It involves Auschwitz, it involves Birkenau, it involves something that horrible happened to our people, and it represents so much and really to so many. So it is very, very important. The museum considers the Auschwitz Jewish Center as one of its most important activities. And it's important because it is, as Simon mentioned, one, an old synagogue, one of the few. Second, it's a beautiful little museum. And 3, it's named after Simon Bergson, who did so much for that museum, for that synagogue. I've had the good fortune of being there with my family. We had a wonderful time and drinking and so on and so forth. but we also, in a very solemn way, enjoyed the museum, really prayed in the synagogue, walked carefully, understood the importance of it, understood the fact that it is really the only relationship to Jewish outside of Auschwitz itself. And it is the place where, as Jews, we can go and we can feel at home. So, Simon, the board of Auschwitz Jewish Center, we want to thank you for providing for all of us a wonderful respite from something that is very, very difficult. So thank you, really. The second part of what the Auschwitz Jewish Center does is something very special. 2 years ago, I had the pleasure and honor of meeting some of the cadets, and one cadet who's here, this is my third year that I've gotten to see him. But what a wonderful program. As we sit here, as we will sit here in a half an hour, 45 minutes, and get to talk to the cadets and see how wonderful they are and how devoted they are and what a difference it makes in their understanding of what is right and what is wrong, what you're supposed to do and not do. We understand the importance of the Auschwitz Jewish Center aside from the bricks and mortar. However, the greatest honor I have tonight is our wonderful friend, Dr. Ruth. And that's all. You see the smile? The smile is here because I have to say, if there's anything that I could be doing that's more wonderful, it's introducing and honoring you, Dr. Ruth. You are one of the most special people in the world. Why? So I'm going to say something which you're not going to believe. Dr. Ruth is a very humble person. Why? Because she's done so much. And yes, she says, I'm Dr. Ruth, but she doesn't talk about the many things she's really done. The first thing, being resilient at the age of 10, living in Switzerland during the Holocaust, and she's the only survivor in her family. And then what does she do? She goes on to Palestine. She becomes a member of the Haganah, helped make our state of Israel, and people don't know this, I tease her about it, she became a sniper, and you still are a sniper. So, and then you talk about her, what I would call her after career. So her after career, when I say she's humble, I mean she talks to us and she talks about herself, but she often doesn't talk about the huge impact she has had on people's lives in an era when people didn't talk about the kinds of things that Dr. Ruth has spoken about. So she is not only a leader in resilience, a leader in Palestine, but a leader in so much of who we are today as people and as human beings. And so, Dr. Ruth, one of my greatest honors ever is to meet you and to introduce you. Thank you so, so much for everything.
Given the chance to go to any country in the world, one of my last choices would be Poland. This all changed during the second semester of my high school senior year. I started to feel sad about leaving my nurturing Jewish community. Senior year ended with a seminar, with lectures and workshops on topics ranging from Israel to Palestine, to the Holocaust, to Rabbi Heschel, to life after high school. Through speaking with prominent people, including Rabbi Lau, Chief Rabbi of Tel Aviv, Rabbi Yehuda Sarna of NYU, and members of Ultimate Peace, a summer program for Arab and Jewish teens to learn about peacemaking through Ultimate Peace, through Ultimate Frisbee, I became more interested in what my relationship with Judaism would be after high school. So when the chance to visit Poland as part of March of the Living presented itself, I decided to go. Maybe there, I thought I could begin to think about the Jewish life I wanted to live. Poland itself is a place where, when I walked around, I felt like an outsider. We saw graffiti of a Jewish star with an X in front of it. Our tour guide explained that it was a symbol of a soccer team and really had nothing to do with its Jewish origins. Even so, I felt uncomfortable in a way I never had before. Basically, the entire Polish tourist appeal is the concentration camps. Although I was proud to be back visiting my roots, I felt uncomfortable with the touristy setup of the country. A large-scale Jewish catering service in a country where there were less than 3,000 Jews felt extremely inauthentic to me. And to the Poles, this was simply their tourist industry, the way many of them made their money. We visited 3 camps, Auschwitz, Birkenau, and Majdanek. The day before the official march from Auschwitz to Birkenau on Yom HaShoah, we visited both camps to explore them without the crowds. On the bus to Auschwitz, I read an autobiography by my grandmother, whose parents and grandmother perished with the other 6 million. I felt it only appropriate to carry her book with me through both camps. As I stepped through the Arbeit Macht Frei gate, I looked down and saw my grandmother's picture on the back cover. I felt as if she was with me in this place of death. Finding my great-grandfather's name in the room filled with books of the names of those who died there touched me deeply. Once I found Julius Siegel from Frankfurt am Main, I immediately broke down crying. I had been learning about the Holocaust since I was small. I knew my grandmother's stories by heart. Here, looking at my great-grandfather's name, it all came together for me in a real way. Every step I took could have been the last step he took. Every cabin I went in could have been where he spent his sleepless nights in this hell. The actual march from Auschwitz to Birkenau was filled with smiles and laughter, even though it was supposed to be a silent march. We felt youthful and thankful to be walking out of this place of death. We gave laughter and smiles to those who could not. Israeli flags covered the buildings and gas chambers. As we started the march, the rain stopped and the sky became a bright blue, a blue that almost made us feel uncomfortable. After all, we were not in a pretty place. I walked holding my friend's hand in one hand, and my other hand held a wooden plaque that would be put in the ground at Birkenau. The plaque named a few of my family members who died there, and a quote by Rabbi Heschel, my high school's namesake. I felt as if my feet were praying. As I walked the ground from Auschwitz to Birkenau, I really did feel as if my feet were praying for all of those who could not. Today, as I stand in the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust, helping to raise money and support for the Auschwitz Jewish Center, and celebrate my grandmother's 88th birthday, I'm grateful I went to Poland. One only gets a certain kind of experience through hearing testimonies from survivors and reading books about the Holocaust. Walking the same path as my family did, seeing the same sights, and breathing the air which they took their last breath is an experience I will never forget. My personal connection to the Holocaust is that much stronger now, and my understanding of my grandmother's life is much deeper. I'm thankful to be here with all of you tonight as we celebrate for those who cannot. Thank you.
As many of you know, I served for many years as the director of this museum, and I can say that one of my proudest accomplishments was incorporating the Auschwitz Jewish Center into the museum family. It has been so rewarding to watch it grow and flourish under Simon Bergson's guidance, along with his generosity and the loyal support of so many of you. And of course, none of what we have accomplished could have happened without the gifted leadership of Tomasz Kunцewicz, we call him Tomek, and who is our director in Poland, and Shiri Sandler, the newest mother among us, who is our director here in New York. Over the past decade of the museum's association with the Auschwitz Jewish Center, careful observers will note that we have quite simply done everything right. From innovative programs to physical renovations, the Auschwitz Jewish Center has made the right choices and executed them with great skill and with an admirable fidelity to the mission of the center. The choice of tonight's honoree, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, is just another example. We could not have chosen a more fitting or deserving person. And we're so grateful to you, Ruth, for doing us the honor of accepting this honor from us. I will confess to you that the first time I met Ruth, I think it was 2001, I was starstruck. I felt privileged to be in her presence and was both entertained by her humor, enriched by her joie de vivre, and moved by her personal story. Over the years, I'm happy to say that Ruth and I have become good friends. I was enlisted early on into her corps of designated schleppers, a distinguished, indeed elite echelon led by Chief Schlepper Jeff Tabak. and I have benefited richly from her loyalty and advice. Yes, that advice also. I had lunch with Ruth not so long ago at Sardi's. We sat in the corner under her caricature, a pretty strategic table, I would say. And I experienced once again her legendary, incredible power to attract and to engage. After one of her legions of admirers got up the courage to come forward and tell her how excited he was to meet her and how much he admired her, she responded with her usual grace and kindness and good humor. After the encounter, she admitted to me, "It's great to be Dr. Ruth." And she said this with a kind of giddiness, as though she couldn't quite believe her good fortune in being the person that she had become. She said it in unspoken acknowledgement of how far she had traveled from a childhood stamped by a dark history with frightening consequences. She said it as a person who had chosen to make the most of her life and to bring the most to other people's lives. Yes, it might be great to be Dr. Ruth, but it is also great to be her friend and to have her as a friend. And now, to the very pleasant task that has been assigned to me, and that is to present Ruth with a wonderful award. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to present to Dr. Ruth a very, very special award created by her friends at La Ligue. This award is a perfect expression of Dr. Ruth, and it represents one of her favorite symbols. Ruth is very fond of turtles. As I recently read in a great new book about Leopold the turtle, Ruth is fond of turtles for embodying one of the principles that has guided her life. Turtles are perfectly safe as long as they stay put and take shelter in the ingenious home that nature has provided for them, their shell. But to make progress, to move, they have to stick their necks out. The turtle embodies the perfect metaphor for the necessity and benefit of taking risks. Not any risk, but only the right kind of risk. Dr. Ruth's life and career have given eloquent expression to this proposition, as she has charted new territory, blazed new trails in her life. She stuck her neck out when no one else did, and we are all better for it. I love you, Dr. Ruth.
As you see, I stand on a bar mitzvah box so that you can see me. Good evening. Let me open by thanking Simon Bergson, the man most responsible for this evening and entirely responsible for my being up on this stage along with the event co-chairs, for all their hard work, and most especially to the staff who had put up with my calling them day and night. As you know, my specialty is helping to get just two people together. So when it comes to pulling together several hundred, well, I find it amazing that all the parts function as well as they have tonight. Welcome to my museum. Why do I call it my museum? Since clearly I don't own it, one reason is that I'm on the board. When I was first appointed is when I began calling it my museum. But when I thought about it, it was really my museum before I joined the board. I'm a museum devotee. Whenever I visit a city, I always visit the museums. They are filled with beautiful objects that inspire me and exhibits that teach me about the past. But for me, this museum isn't like that. The Holocaust isn't something I need to learn about because, as you have heard, I lived through it. I was sent to an orphanage because of it, lost my family to it, and it shaped my life in so many ways. No, for me, this museum is a little like those family albums we all have on bookshelves in the living room. It's not dedicated to someone else's past, some famous kings and queens or Greek gods. Instead, it's dedicated to my past. And it's designed so that those who come visit will never forget my past, and that of the 6 million Jews who perished, as well as we lucky few who managed to survive Hitler's plan for us. And so that's why it's my museum. And if you were somehow directly affected by the Holocaust, which really means if you are Jewish, or if you are non-Jewish, like many of my friends here, but are my friends, then it's your museum too. I know 2 non-Jews who joined last time they visited, Raoul and Michael. You see, even if it is my museum, I'm happy to share it with you. In fact, I'm delighted to share it with you because it means that I wasn't alone in surviving, that I'm not alone on this earth as a Jew. I always say that I take extra joy in my children and grandchildren because Hitler did not want them to exist. And yet, as you have seen, they are thriving. Several of my family members are here tonight. My eldest, my daughter Miriam, is among the missing, but that's because she was taught by me that all we have a duty to save the world. The Jewish phrase is tikkun olam. Can you say all of that together, tikkun olam? A little louder. Nice. And so she, Miriam, is dedicating her life to teaching young, underprivileged mothers around the world to prepare their children for school, and her job sent her to Australia this week. But her husband, Joel, is here, and their 2 children, my grandchildren, Ari and Leora, are here with him. My son, Joel, is here, but he lives in Canada. And so his wife, Barbara, and my 2 Canadian grandchildren, Michal and Ben, couldn't be here. Joel is also in town because he gave a wonderful talk last night at Teachers College on behalf of his book, What Kind of Citizen? You see that I know how to plug my children's books. One person missing is my late husband, Fred, who would have been so proud to be here, as well as at Joel's talk last night. But this will always be Fred's museum as well, because his picture was hanging as part of one of its exhibits. The exhibit was Ours to Fight For, Jewish GIs during World War II. When one becomes an orphan, you need to create your own extended family. And so many of mine are here today. And Mr. Morgenthau adopted me, and every time I see him, he gives me $2. Today he gave me $5. Of course, tonight, we gather here in my museum, our museum, in honor of the Auschwitz Jewish Center, which is an affiliate of the Museum of Jewish Heritage. So I lost family members in Auschwitz, and maybe because I lost loved ones there, it's a place I have not yet visited. But it's a place that must be visited by as many as possible, because otherwise the horrors that occurred there may end up being forgotten. And it's particularly appropriate for young cadets to go there. As we all know, war is hell. But as Dante theorized, there are many separate levels in hell, and during World War II, what occurred in Auschwitz was literally hell on earth. And soldiers need to understand that sometimes killing is part of their duties, but there are ethical limits, and that sometimes they have to say no. The Nazis who ran Auschwitz didn't say no. Maybe some were just obeying orders, maybe some were obeying their orders with enthusiasm, but they all had free will and they could have said no, and yet they didn't. And so the most horrible things did occur in Auschwitz. After the war was over, I went to then Palestine, and I fought for Israel's independence as part of the Haganah. It turned out I was a good shot, and so they made me a sniper. Whoever doesn't give money tonight to Auschwitz Center, watch it. Pierre, that was not in the script, I added it. So they did make me a sniper. I never had to shoot at anyone, in part because I was severely wounded in a blast cannonball that exploded in a girls' residence and killed some girls next to me. But if I'd had to, probably I would have. In the Jewish tradition, it does say that you can kill if you are in danger to be killed. However, right now, I'm writing a graphic novel for children which will include scenes about my past, and the editor wanted me to include a scene about me having been a sniper. I said that I couldn't do that. I don't want to give the message to young people that being a sniper is something to be admired for or emulated. To my way of thinking, that's not a teachable moment from my life. Instead, I would hope that those children who read my book and learn that I lost my family to the Holocaust will come away feeling that war is too horrible to experience and that we should all be working towards peace all across the globe. Can all of you say shalom? Shalom. That means peace. But of course, one of the main lessons of preserving Auschwitz as a memorial to the Holocaust is the phrase, never again. While we all pray never to see such horrors again, that phrase also means that if a similar kind of evil were to rise up, we'd have to do all we could to stop it in its tracks. So what the Auschwitz Jewish Center and this museum teaches us is not just to remember, but to be vigilant. To not just look at the past, but to plan for the future. To make certain that these young cadets you see here among us understand the responsibility that comes with carrying their weapons. To create in them an internal line in their conscience that they will not cross, but to also let them know that we are counting on them to make sure that we will always be able to visit museums such as this one and support causes such as the Auschwitz Jewish Center. Freedom, be it freedom of religion, freedom of speech, or simply the freedom to live in peace, is not something that we can take for granted. I certainly don't, and while I'm honored to have been singled out tonight for my past, I pray with all my heart that no one ever has to go through what I did again, and so I want to thank all of you for your generosity and commitment to take the Auschwitz Jewish Center and to my museum. Thank you. Toda rabba.
Okay, what are you going to sing?
I am going to sing Non Je ne regrette rien by Edith Piaf.
Okay.
Happy birthday, by the way, almost. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni les biens car m'a fait, ni les mal, tout ça vient bénégat. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Mais les biens, par les biens, oubliés, ça commence avec toi.
Fabulous!
To learn more about the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation and its programs, please visit their website at ajcf.org. And for more information about the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust, please visit mjhnyc.org. We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.